Hello, welcome you to Module 16 of the training course. My name is Tick and it is my pleasure to guide you through this section of the course. How can feedback improve students' learning? As a teacher, we may have asked ourselves that question many times during our career. Some researchers have interviewed students and here are their answers. So, feedback needs to be positive and guide students how to become better. The feedback also needs to be clear and given as soon as possible. Besides teachers' feedback, students could feel more motivated if they know how to measure their own progress and thereby helping their friends with their work. These are known as self-assessment and peer assessment accordingly. Feedback sometimes should be given in private so that it will not hurt students' feelings and negatively affect their confidence. It is necessary to tell students about the methods of assessment and criteria in order for them not to be confusing, anxious, or nervous. In addition, knowing the teacher's expectation can give them a right direction to follow when accomplishing their works. In terms of objectives, this module is to help you understand more about assessment, including its type and roles in the classrooms. In addition, you can also know more about ways of giving feedback effectively and appropriately. Last but not least, the lesson also shows you how to run a project for your pupils to learn well and improve their skills. Through history of assessment, humans have invented different ways of assessing learning process. Please watch the following video and take notes of different assessment tools teachers can use over time.
In the beginning, assessment was simple. We'd give something a try. It was obvious when we did not succeed. And it was obvious when we did. This became known as learning. Then formal education arrived. And we invented universities and lecture halls, lesson plans, and final exams. We tested students to see if they learned anything. And then we assessed our own effectiveness as teachers through anecdotal questionnaires and subjective end-of-semester surveys. And this might have been enough when we were graduating high school and college students to take predictable jobs with predictable career paths. But today, educators and students are part of a rapidly changing world. 21st century learners must be able to synthesize knowledge, communicate clearly with others, and create solutions to problems that we don't even know exist. Which means students need personalized, engaging, useful feedback on meaningful work, not multiple choice exams and unexplained letter grades. So whether you're teaching accountants, engineers, artists, welders, scientists, or nurses, your students need detailed feedback on meaningful work so they can become learners, not simply graduates.
In the video, as you can see, there are different kinds of assessment which have been mentioned, such as final exams, anecdotal questionnaires, survey, essay, quiz, MCQ exams, and meaningful, detailed feedback. After some time of teaching, every teacher would wonder the same things. Is any learning taking place? Are our pupils making any progress or developing? How far have we achieved our teaching goals? Therefore, we need feedback on teaching, and pupils also need feedback on their learning in order to develop further. According to Moon 2005, assessments is a way of providing feedback on learning and teaching. When we assess our learners, we may have different reasons in our minds. The priorities for assessing depends on teachers' needs, teacher's situation, or school policy. For example, in a language center where students could be moved up to the new levels according to their progress and achievements of learning goals, it will be necessary to use assessment with a set of certain criteria to identify what they have learned and obtained over the time. In a classroom where the teacher is trying to boost up the learner's motivation, it will be necessary for the assessment results to indicate pupils' preferences for some particular activities. Here are some of the most popular reasons for assessment. To find out whether you have achieved your teaching objectives. To identify what pupils have learned, for example, achievement over a term or a year. To identify a pupil's progress in learning English. To check pupils' use of a particular skill or language structures in a lesson or unit. To find out whether pupils like, dislike particular activities and why. Assessment can be done for different purposes, such as to identify students' progress or to check on their achievement. They are called ongoing or continuous assessment and overall assessment respectively. If assessment is done to monitor student progress, then we may need to collect information in the forms of comments or samples of students' work. Basing on this information, teachers will need, for example, to talk to students about their strengths or weaknesses, or to give them extra work or support. If assessment is done to monitor achievement, teachers may need to rely on information in the forms of test results. Depending on the initial reason, teachers could possibly use the data obtained differently. If you initially want to identify a pupil's progress in learning, then you can use the collected result to adjust learning tasks to suit his or her needs, give feedback on strengths and problem areas to work on, or help them make an action plan. If the assessment is to identify student achievement, then the results can help move students to the next class or not. Adjust teachers' yearly teaching plan or change learning materials. If you assess to check pupils' use of a particular skill or language structure in a lesson or unit, then the results can help you decide to give further practice, change your lesson plan for the next lesson, or give special help to some pupils. If assessment is to find out whether you have achieved your teaching objectives, you may want to adjust your future teaching plans or try out new methods or techniques accordingly. In case the assessment is to find out whether pupils like or dislike particular activities and why, teachers can make changes to their activities or involve pupils more in choosing activities. With the purpose of diagnosing problems